Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about the easiest and most overpowered Dwarf Legendary Lord in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And that would, of course, be Grombrindal, the White Dwarf. If people think Malachi is overpowered as a Legendary Lord, they have not played Grombrindal. This campaign is ridiculously easy. How ridiculously easy? Well, let me just show you something. I do have the auto-resolve quest battle mod, so I auto-resolve the quest battles, but in terms of having to fight battles manually, I only lost 2 battles. One because Valkia sacked the settlement, another one because Valkia sacked the settlement. There's a theme in there. But regardless, in this particular campaign, I fought 3 battles personally. One against Hellebron, who, after I auto-resolved against one of Valkia's army, was just chilling ground with my army heavily damaged through 2 full entire sacks against me, and I beat her with like 40 men lost out of a heavily damaged army. Another one against Malekith, where I fought 2 full stacks and the entire garrison of Nagaron at the same time with a low-tier army. Yeah, that's a kind of situation. So yeah, Malekith, Hellebron fought those armies, and yeah, then some forces of chaos had to fight those manually as well. It is an absurdly crazy situation to find yourself in when playing Grombrindal. But how is Grombrindal so ridiculously absurd? Why is he so ridiculously absurd? Like, say what you will about Malachi. If you play a Malachi campaign, and yes, I am at war over here because money, but in Malachi's campaign, you do have to at least fight battles, and you have decisions to make, and which flank you're going to defend, where you're going to do. That is what makes it interesting. In this campaign, it's like YOLO, more or less. Like, seriously, just YOLO. Because the amount of force needed to destroy Grombrindal in a battle is very significant. If they even catch you, and good luck with that. Like, when it takes Malekith, Valkia, and Hellebron to even slow me down, and I emphasize the slow me down part, you know you've got a really strong Legendary Lord. But how does this work? Well, first off, you start over here at war with Skaven. Dwarves have great auto-resolve, Skaven have really poor auto-resolve, knife meets butter type situation. Then, there is the Ancestors event. The one I have right here is for research, upkeep, construction cost, and recruitment cost. But the one you should pick is one that gives you 20% casualty replenishment. Now, 20% casualty replenishment from very early on in your campaign is extremely powerful, and it's one of the reasons you can get away with so many auto-resolves, because if you just auto-resolve naturally, you will be able to win a lot of battles, but the casualties you're taking will stack up, and you'll just end up losing eventually. But with 20% casualty replenishment on Grombrindal's army, that ceases to be an issue very, very quickly, until you get access to Felix, who does have replenishment, or you can get the Dragon Slayer hero. I also have a Demon Slayer right over here, who just kind of captured all of Valkia's core territories. Granted, Valkia's armies were not present in this location, but all the same, with regards to that. But there's another thing that makes Grombrindal so crazy and such a nightmare to deal with, actually, in the hands of a player. See, you have a blue skill line that is extremely absurd. You get, crucially, 15% campaign movement range faction-wide. So every character, every army you have has 15% campaign movement range. Grombrindal is worse because you get 15% extra, and then you can also get an engineer over here. Am I at the movement range cap? Probably so, yes. So I would dare say that I am at the movement range cap. In fact, I'm above it. So you can increase your movement range by up to 50%. Grombrindal gets 30%, the engineer gives 25%. You get the idea, right? So it's like, yep, I am above the movement range cap with Grombrindal's army. Not necessarily another army, but Grombrindal is certainly over there. And that's just one engineer with Grombrindal. Then, to go even further, you have 4 fairly easy quest battles. Like, some quest battles for certain characters are really hard. The ones with Grombrindal are so pathetically easy, you can auto-resolve them with minimal casualties. Again, Dwarf auto-resolve, combined with casualty replenishment. Combined with the casualty replenishment you get after every quest battle, you get the idea. Or you fight them manually and you win them with, like, losing 10 guys. if even that. And this is not me going full-on gyrocopters, which I could have, to be clear. You can get a lot of gyrocopters very quickly in this campaign. No, I went with Quarrelers, I went with Iron Drakes, I went with Thunderers, and all that kind of stuff, right? I didn't just spam gyrocopters, which would have made this even more trivial than it was. But the important thing about these quest battles, each of them gives you vision in a region, so that way you can declare war and peace with certain factions, get trading agreements, all that kind of stuff. That is a key element about that. But having those quest battles, each of them gives you a ton of money. Oh yeah. And if I end the turn over here, there's also a further way of getting even more money in this campaign, because you see, you have a minor ogre faction that starts near you, and for whatever reason, CA's decision in regards to ogres after Omens of Destruction was like every ogre faction can have truckloads of cash. It's not even funny, actually, how much cash they can have. So, for instance, I sold Nagron to the ogres, and then I got them a war with Valkia's vassal, so they ended up losing Nagron. Okay, I lose some units there. I don't really care. Like, the casualties are just a number in Grombrindal's campaign, but we take Nagron back, right? Keep in mind, I took it in the first place, then sold it to ogres, they lost it to Valkia's vassal. But I sell Nagron to them. I get 12,000 gold almost from that alone. And if I were to say sell another settlement, they would still have 5,000 more. Yep. I think they have like 6,000 gold in the bank. Ogres are crazy. The reason they're so crazy is they actually don't spend a lot of money on settlements for whatever reason and just end up hoarding it. And obviously they're not spending money on the camps, they're spending meat on the camps. Also, you gotta consider the fact that ogres can give you mercenaries, so you can get your hands on man-eaters. So beyond the like, I had them in this campaign, and then I just kind of got rid of them. But if I wanted man-eaters, I could get those big boys very easily. But you have an inexhaustible supply of cash because every faction gets some level of baseline income. That just makes sense. And, yeah, Lefanar is going to have a really bad day over here. It is a one-dimensional campaign, I'm not going to lie about it, but damn is it hilarious sometimes. Like, oh, you get factions attacking you, declaring war against you, and then you just show up and annihilate them. And I do mean annihilation. I'm not talking about beating them, I'm talking about their descendants will be talking about it for generations later down the line. Type of situation. Whether or not you own DLC for the dwarves or not, the power of this campaign cannot be understated. In fact, I am not really using any DLC. Well, some regiments renown, I did make use of those, but outside of that, it's completely unnecessary and completely pointless to go for anything else. And you start with the runesmith, so you don't need to bother with that building. You can get a feint very quickly because you start with tier 1 barracks, so you can start making into tier 2 1 at level 1 on turn 1. You can get an engineer fairly quickly. The only thing you're going to be missing for a decent length of time is a Dragon Slayer, and that's where Gotrek and Felix come in. Because, yeah, Gotrek is basically, forget Dragon Slayer, he's a freaking Demon Slayer, and Felix gives you the replenishment that the Dragon Slayer does offer. That is pretty ridiculous, and there's so much manipulation you can go for. Like, there's 7 turns left, and my grudge meter is 85% full, and I'm not even breaking a sweat. Also, those quest battles do help you fill out your first grudge meter, so that's another advantage. The one downside is that you do have certain enemies that you may have to deal with, but yeah, Helleborn got annihilated in this campaign. I'm just gonna go obliterate Lefanar, take all his shit, and then maybe make a peace agreement with him once he's down to all of this, so you can form up my flanking force, just giving you an idea. But between the movement range, the various recruitment benefits, they do have the quest battles, the vision you can get from quest battles that allow you to declare war on various factions and even peace. You have a significant amount of money, a really good army, a very fast-moving army. You're faster than anyone else around you. Partly because of the underweight, the tunneling stance. So only a Lifanar could compete against you. But even then, you're faster than a Lifanar because you get a lot more movement range than he could ever dream of. So that is one of the advantages that you do have even against him. Let alone the fact that you have a much better start than he does and a much better army in the long term or even the short term. Like, gyrocopters are crazy, and the AI doesn't really seem capable of handling gyrocopters in a very effective way. You get a lot of grudges fairly quickly. You may not be able to complete as many legendary grudges, because completing any kind of legendary grudge would require, for instance, the deal on Morathi. That is the downside, because other campaigns may have a legendary grudge that you complete, like Belagar with Athaloran, Forgrim and Ungrim with Underway, Malachi with regards to Norska, so you do lack that, but there are so many people to fight over here that you may not necessarily feel it, and that is a really nice advantage. And yeah, just 15% recruitment cost for your recruit rank, 6% casualty replenishment, and a skill line that gives you vigor loss reduction, armor piercing damage, ammunition for Iron Drakes and War Machine units, and yes, this does apply to the Grudge Seller Iron Drake unit. Pretty scary, isn't it? And yes, also missile strength. Like, when you get that skill and you start seeing Malachi, Grombrindal's Iron Drakes just annihilating units in a battle, like in a single volley of fire, literal fire, it gets pretty crazy pretty damn quickly, especially these ones with the longer range. But in this case, really, it's these guys that have been putting in a lot of work. There's a reason why all these units over here are gold ranked and these guys are silver ranked, because I got them more recently than that. You know, had to complete the first grudge and all that kind of good stuff right here. But yeah, this campaign is completely over the top. I don't necessarily like it because I do want more choices in my campaign, not just like, you know, go one path, annihilate Malekith, then deal with Valken. Maybe if maybe Hellebron can make things a bit more interesting, she can. But other Dwarven campaigns do offer you more choice. But if you just want to play a Dwarven campaign where you're just the Doom stack, the endgame crisis from turn 1, this is the one to go for. You don't need the DLC, though. It obviously benefits you to have it from Regiment's Renown unit perspective, though hero perspective is more important. I don't really care about many of the Slayer units personally. That's just where I stand. Though Grudge Rakers are really nice, and the Grim Delvers and Thunderers are also really nice to go for. That's all I had to say. Quistine signing out, and stay tuned for more.